Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Games and Things. Whether you are into watching big games or the latest movies, it is so important to have comfortable seating, and Nowhere in East Tennessee carries a wider, better selection of home theater seats at great pricing than Games and Things. I got mine at Games and Things. You can find them there out Kingston Pike at Lovell Road in West Knoxville. You can visit their website, ourgameroom.com. But as I always tell you, the stop in is more impressive because it is. You won't want to leave. It's the most comfortable showroom you'll ever see. They'll have to kick you out of the place. Games and Things. Go out and tell Scott and Lisa Mellon that we said hello. Games and Things. All right. Want to welcome in the next member of our panel down here, Ryan Callahan from GoVols247.com. Ryan, thanks for being with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Let's run through a number of issues, reports, rumors floating around this defensive coordinator search and more. There are growing rumors because of the way Randy Shannon was kind of paired with Josh Heupel at UCF. Now everyone is saying that Danny White is being too hands-on here at UT, that Josh Heupel wants to hire this guy, but Danny White isn't letting him. He wants this guy. Danny White is the one that's making this hire. Anybody buying those rumors that are percolating?
I think Danny White has his fingerprints on it, yes. I'm not going to say he said you can't hire this guy, but I think he's involved in the hiring process.
He's involved, and I would say that happened at UCF too. We've heard a lot about Randy Shannon having been a guy that Danny White was very much involved in hiring, and that was maybe somewhat of an awkward fit at UCF. I think you can learn from that this time, so maybe that doesn't mean that this hire is going to be someone that Josh Heupel's not on board with. I think there's a good enough relationship there; they'll be fine. But it's something to keep an eye on, at least because of what happened at UCF. That was maybe not the ideal fit.
I think it's something to keep an eye on because you just had an athletic director who was apparently too hands-on. Why is your athletic director this involved in hiring coaches? If he's cutting contracts, that's fine. But if I'm the head coach, and maybe this was the deal. I mean, Heupel knew him; he's coming here after 3 years. Yeah. But if you hire me to be the head coach, give me the opportunity and get out of my office. I'll call you when I need you. That's a concern. If Danny White is this hands-on in the hiring of assistant coaches, I don't think that's a good thing. Am I wrong?
What's probably a reasonable concern because we're still having the conversation, right? I mean, if the fact that it's taken this long, whatever has led Tennessee to this path has not worked in the search for a defensive coordinator.
Kevin Steele was sitting over there on staff, and we all know the situation. There were some people who a lot of people at Auburn who viewed that he was trying to get that job from Gus Malzahn. Whether someone who's new to Tennessee would want to turn around and bring that guy as his defensive coordinator is a question. Does Kevin Steele run an attacking defense that attacks as much as Heupel or Danny White would want? That was a question. But the thought that you're now going to pay him $900,000 for just a couple of weeks to come in and kick your feet. I wish Philip Fulmer would hire me for something. That is the best gig in the world. He throws the money around. Why was this a non-starter, really? I mean, Kevin Steele was never seriously considered. It does not appear.
I think he was.
You think he was seriously considered?
Yes. Okay. I think that there was an initial conversation with him. I don't think it went well, and then I think that was the end of it. So I think he was considered. And I'll tell you this, too. Even when Steele was the acting head coach, there was a contract offer to Rodney Garner. It just took a long time for them to get that deal done with him. I think he was considered. I don't think it went well. And then I think from that point on, he was off the table.
Then why is he still? I mean, here's the thing. We discussed this off camera. We'll let you point it out. The $900,000. All right, here's the deal. He was going to get millions from Auburn. You mitigated part of that by offering $900,000. Now Tennessee is hoping that someone else takes him and mitigates part of the $900,000 they owe him. He'd be the first man in history paid by 3 schools at once. But the question is, if you'd let him go earlier.
Yeah, I mean, if you know you're not going to hire him as a defensive coordinator, why didn't you just part ways? And here he is sitting here weeks later, and now whatever job he might have been able to land, he probably can't get, whether it was in college or the NFL. So now you have reduced your chances of having that salary mitigated because you've held on to him this long. I don't know when they're going to cut bait with him. They're going to do it at some point, but I don't see him being on the staff, right?
Is there any chance, though, they turn around and whoever the defensive coordinator is, they say, offer him an all linebackers coach, so he has to turn it down, and that way we're not going to owe him?
I guess that's possible.
I wonder. I don't think UT's that smart enough to do that, right? To be honest with you.
Is he
they
going to go
just
be
heard
an
you.
analyst at Alabama and have Auburn and Tennessee pay him?
Yeah, that'd be about right.
He can make $35,000 down there.
Josh Heupel has made a couple of hires. Rodney Garner, who Jimmy just mentioned, he was here at UT and brought in three key members of that national championship team. He's been at Auburn and Georgia for the rest of that time. He's been in the SEC for 20 years. Well known as a very good recruiter. Then you've got Jerry Mack, who comes in. He was offensive coordinator at Rice, former head coach at North Carolina Central. I thought it was amazing this week the number of people saying, "Oh, Jerry Mack's a great hire." Yeah, there's plenty of you here in Knoxville who've heard the name Jerry Mack before, but he's also hired, and this is where he's done his most hard work, it seems. Heupel has put together a recruiting office that is filled with former Vol assistants and people who have worked in the SEC, know recruiting Tennessee. So talk to me about Garner and Mack and the work he's doing off the scenes, the off-field staff he's putting together from a recruiting perspective, because you cover that closely with Go Vols 24/7.
Yeah, I think first of all, Rodney Garner, that hire is a big deal. That gives instant credibility on multiple fronts. He's an underrated defensive line coach, I would say, on top of everything else he's done. But he's obviously known first and foremost as a good recruiter. There's some people that wonder if he's still at the same level he was 5-10 years ago. But just a couple of years ago, he had a top 5 ranking in our 24/7 Sports recruiter rankings based on his, I think, 2020 class that he signed, or 2019, I guess it was. So he's had a really good year in the not so distant past. Jerry Mack is the unknown. He's never been in a Power 5 program before. He's been a head coach at North Carolina Central, Rice offensive coordinator most recently, but very well thought of in Memphis. He played at Whitehaven High School, which is obviously a school that's put out 4 Tennessee signees over the past few years, and a school that puts out as much talent as anywhere in that city. So that helps to have that in there at that school. And then obviously he's recruited Memphis at some of his previous stops, so that's worthwhile experience there. I think the on-field or the off-field staff that he's hired that you're talking about is maybe the best thing he's done, though. Scott Altizer and Brandon Lawson are the 2 guys who will head up that recruiting office. Brandon Lawson gets the Director of Player Personnel title. Scott Altizer like an executive staff sort of role. And those guys have been at Tennessee before. They know the landscape. I think that's where sometimes new staffs at Tennessee get in trouble, is maybe not understanding Tennessee's place in the recruiting world. So to have a guy like that and multiple guys like that throughout the office, even leading the director of recruiting type positions for on-field or on-campus visits, having someone like that knows Tennessee is a big deal.
All right. Very good. Josh, you cover recruiting too. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I would just agree with Ryan. As we're still waiting to see exactly what the defensive staff will look like, but you're wondering, okay, how many SEC ties do you have? Rodney Garner obviously has that, but in terms of where Tennessee is and what has to happen in recruiting, which we'll hit on more of, I think adding people that understand Tennessee and where the Vols are and have been, but they need more of that, because the staff is a big question mark.
And when we come back, I'm going to tell you why none of that matters, and then we'll let them tear me to pieces. I say Heupel's going to recruit just fine here. I have proof on my side. We'll see if they believe the proof. Come on back.